I thank you all for coming. We have a very distinguished panel today. I would like to recognize right off Her Excellency Dr. Ajaratu Isatu Njai Saidi, the Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs of the Republic of the Gambia. Welcome to New York University. You'll have a number of ministers here who are all going to be introduced, ministers, commissioners. That is not my job. My job here today is actually just to welcome you all to New York University. My name is Yao Nyako. I'm a professor of economics. I have the privilege of being the director of NYU's Africa House, which is an interdisciplinary institute devoted to the promotion of all of the wonderful things we know exists and happens in Africa. So Africa House is very honored and proud to be a sponsor, a host of the event today. I think this is the 5th or 6th we've been doing every year around this time, and so it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all again on behalf of my president, the provost of NYU. Welcome to all of you. Welcome to New York University. Thank you. So without much further ado, I'm going to introduce to you, I'm going to bring up here, I was told we're going to be having self-introductions today, and so I'm not going to introduce our good friend, Ali Velshi. I will not say he's a wonderful person who works at CNN. I will not talk about all the wonderful, give me your money. I have this little book he's written. It's called Give Me Your Money. It's all about financial things. I have it on my desk in my economics department office. I show it to all my students. No, I will not tell you any of that because this is self-introduction. And I also won't comment on the fact that the two of us have similar hairstyles. We're both bald. Okay, so on that lack of introducing him, here is our introduction.
Dr. Nyako, thank you for your fantastic introduction. It is once again our pleasure to be back here at the New York University, a most beautiful campus. I know for many of you this is a return visit to this campus and to this beautiful city. One time we'd like to have you visit when the city isn't in complete traffic gridlock. Most of the time it isn't, actually. So for those of you who have had trouble getting around, this is a specific characteristic of this week when the UN General Assembly is around. But we enjoy it. It's part of being in New York. This is a typical October day, except it's September. But we're very pleased to have you all here. This is going to be a very robust conversation over the next little while. We are, on one level, we are making great strides with respect to tourism and the infrastructure of getting global tourists to Africa and getting Africans to travel within Africa. There are major advancements that have been made. We are getting more sophisticated about it. In some places, people are making more money. Economic growth, GDP growth in Africa in aggregate is remarkably strong. On another front, we continue to have problems. We continue to have issues, particularly in the north. We still have issues, as we've seen recently, in Kenya, which we will discuss. There are still reasons why people make choices to go to other places instead of to Africa, and we are going to have a very specific conversation today about how we change that and who we is, in fact. Some of the people you see around here, representatives of government, of international organizations, of trade, are going to talk about what can be done, some best practices. We'll hear from some countries that are doing it very well and from others that are trying to learn from those countries that are doing it very well. Bottom line is, we all know, everybody in this room knows, Africa is a great place to be, it's a great place to visit, and for Africans, it's a great place to go to other countries, particularly in this global economy. There are some real advantages to convincing Africans to travel to other African countries, and last year we dealt with some of the specific problems with doing that, and how we've made some strides in advancing the ease with which people can move from one African nation to the other. We'll hear from our friends in the Caribbean about the concept of getting people to Africa first and then getting them around Africa, because that's going to be beneficial for all of the economies that we're discussing. Madam Vice President, it's a pleasure to have you here. It's an honor to have you here. Thank you. Before we get further into the program, I want to invite my good friend Eddie Bergman, who once again has helped bring everybody together here. Eddie, I think we really have made some fantastic strides over the last several years, and I'm kind of hoping that this will be a real benchmark in having some discussions about more specific things that we have to do to break the back of impediments to travel to Africa and within Africa. So with that, my good friend Eddie Bergman.
Thank you, Ali. Good morning. Your Excellency, Honorable Ministers, distinguished guests, ATA Board of Directors and members, strategic partners, travel trade professionals, media, the NYU community, faculty, and students, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to our 6th annual Presidential Forum on Tourism hosted by New York University. None of this would have been possible without our friends from NYU's Africa House, and in particular, we recognize Dr. Yao Nyarko and his associate, Dr. Mrs. Ade Halu, for their outstanding cooperation and partnership with this event for the 6th year in a row. We also I would like to personally recognize the ATA Secretariat and the team that's worked so hard to put this together, in particular Angela Geru, Sharon Rowling, and our teams of interns, Robin, Zoe, and several others who have committed so much time to making this happen over the last several months. We also recognize Anita Mandarata, who's with us and who's really helped to elevate this event this year, our 6th year, to a whole nother level, and we recognize and thank you for your contributions. We thank our sponsors this year, the Egyptian Tourist Authority, the Tanzania Tourist Board, and the Tanzania National Parks and South African Airways. We appreciate your loyalty and support to making events like this possible. As we look around the room, we can see many new friends of ATA and many longtime members and partners, and we thank everyone for your continued support and for participating. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome our distinguished guests, beginning, of course, with Her Excellency, the Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs of the Republic of Gambia, Dr. Ajaratu Isatu Njai Saidi. It is truly an honor to have you with us in New York, at New York University. We were most honored to have been received by you and your government at the 35th Annual Congress in your beautiful country 2 years ago, and it's truly an honor to have you with us in New York. We also welcome the ATA President and Minister of Tourism and Culture from the Republic of Gambia, Honorable Fatou Mas Jobi Njai, for her outstanding contributions to ATA. And I see the Vice President starting to clap, so I think we should all clap for her leadership. We recognize the Honorable Minister of Natural Resources and Tourism from the United Republic of Tanzania, Honorable Ezekiel Maji. We thank you for being with us. We recognize our partners and very good friend of the Africa Travel Association, Ambassador Amina Ali, the Ambassador of the African Union to the United States. Ambassador Ali is also representing the Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy at the African Union, Dr. Elham M.A. Ibrahim. We welcome Ms. Rika Rigwamba, the Head of Tourism and Conservation Department for the Rwanda Development Board, who is also here representing His Excellency Paul Kagame, the President of the Republic of Rwanda. We welcome Mr. Mohammed Hagezi, the Tourism Attaché for USA and Latin America from the Egyptian Tourism Authority and our good friend of ATA. We also welcome the Executive Director for External Relations and Partnerships of the United Nations World Tourism Organization, Mr. Marcio Luca de Paulo, who's with us, and we thank you and the UNWTO for your participation. Our very good friend, the Secretary General and CEO of the Caribbean Tourism Organization, Mr. Hugh Riley. Thank you for being with ATA at this forum. And Mr. David Scottswell, the President and CEO of the World Travel and Tourism Council, and we are so honored to have you with us. This is the first time the WTTC will be participating at an ATA event at this level, and we're so honored to have you. We recognize our friends from the National Tourist Association who are with us, and we're honored to have the chair and CEO, Mrs. Kathy Greentman, who's with us. We thank you and the NTA for your partnership. Also recognize and welcome the Managing Director of ATA, based in the United Kingdom, Mr. Nigel Very Nicole, who's with us, and we are really pleased with the relationship that's beginning to form between ATA and ATTA. We welcome ambassadors and members of the diplomatic corps, representatives from ATA member airlines serving Africa. We have representatives, I believe, with us from Delta Airlines, Ethiopian Airlines, South African Airways, and Arik Air, members of the travel trade, representatives from the media, faculty and tourism, faculty and students from the NYU community and the greater New York academic community, and of course, the ATA members of the board of directors who are with us. And I'd like to ask our board members just to stand to be acknowledged for their continued leadership and support with ATA throughout the year. Last but certainly not least, Ali Velshi. Every day, Ali reaches millions of viewers around the world, and by participating in this year's event year after year, you have continued significantly to raise the awareness of the importance of the tourism industry, and we appreciate, Ali, for your continued partnership. Allow me to share briefly a few thoughts before the program begins on behalf of ATA. First, about ATA. Second, about some of the highlights over the last year, and third, about our plans ahead. Founded in 1975, ATA's mission is to promote the sustainable development of travel and tourism to the African continent, and to strengthen intra-Africa partnerships. And to make this happen, we work with governments and the private sector members from almost every African nation and around the world. ATA is committed to promoting Destination Africa. During the year, we organize a wide range of industry events, including our World Congress in Africa, the Eco and Cultural Tourism Symposium in Africa, the U.S.-Africa Seminar on Tourism in Washington, and our Presidential Forum on Tourism in New York. We also organize promotional travel roadshows for African destinations and participate in a dozen or more travel trade shows around the world. We are home to targeted tourism initiatives like our Young Professionals program, which met this morning and had a wonderful session from what I understand, and we congratulate the ATA Young Professionals program for their outstanding leadership. We'd like to now turn to some developments at ATA for the last year. It is such a great pleasure that today we will be announcing the official release of the second edition of the State of Tourism in Africa report, which is a joint publication between NYU's Africa House, the World Bank, and ATA. And I would like to recognize from the World Bank, Dr. Hannah Messerly, and Dr. Yao Nyarko for partnering with us to make this happen. This report uses facts, figures, and stories to make a strong case for international bodies and national governments to develop and invest in Africa's travel and tourism industry. Here are some highlights from the report. These highlights have been compiled with data which has been put together and quoted from various leading tourism organizations around the world, and some of this data comes from UNWTO, WTTC, the World Bank, and the China Outbound Tourism Research Institute. Number one, Africa tourism arrivals grew from 37 million in 2003 to 63 million in 2010. About 4 million tourists took a tour to sub-Sahara Africa in 2009. International tourism receipts to Africa totaled 44 billion in 2010. In 2010, Morocco, Angola, Cape Verde, Madagascar, South Africa, and Egypt all reported double-digit growth in arrival. Tanzania and Mauritius also showed strong growth rates in 2010. Preliminary figures for the first 4 months of 2011 show strong growth arrivals for Cape Verde, Kenya, Madagascar, and Senegal. Direct travel and tourism employment in Africa totaled an estimated 7.7 million in 2010, with tour operators providing direct employment to an estimated 30,000 to 45,000 people alone in sub-Sahara Africa. Africa received 730,000 visitors from China in 2010, making it the smallest but fastest growing continental destination with an impressive growth rate of 90% compared to 2009. About 75% are first-time visitors. From this data, we can see that Africa tourism industry has made great progress in the last couple of years, with Africa becoming a growth region for travel and tourism. With growing public desire to travel to Africa, improved airline accessibility, a better climate for business and investment, a growing commitment to entrepreneurship, and a diversification of travel products beyond traditional sun and sea and safari packages, and more effective promotion of Africa destinations through big events. This year, we have seen great progress with our ongoing and dedicated efforts to make travel and tourism more of a priority on Africa's national and regional agendas. In the last year alone, ATA has had the opportunity to dialogue with nearly 20 tourism ministers or tourism leaders, many whom participated in our 36th annual World Congress in Dakar, Senegal in May, alongside approximately 200 professionals from more than 30 countries. In each discussion, we spoke about the need to make tourism a pillar in economic strategies and a centerpiece in foreign policies. It is important to note that these discussions not only focus on the role governments play in promoting travel and tourism, but on the role of the private sector. While government has a leading role to play in creating a strong tourism industry, this of course must be done in partnership with the private sector. This brings us to the final point of our year ahead. In the next few years, ATA will continue to work with its members in the public and private sectors to support a successful travel and tourism industry. But we cannot do this alone. We all know that travel and tourism cannot be addressed solely from a national perspective. It cannot be addressed solely from a regional perspective. Travel and tourism needs to be addressed through cross sectors and cross borders. That's where we all have a critical role to play. So we turn to our partners with whom we have signed MOUs dedicated to cooperation, the African Union Commission, the Caribbean Tourism Organization, building links between the Caribbean and Africa and the world, and the National Tour Association, engaging the U.S. marketplace in Destination Africa. We also turn to the world's leading tourism bodies, UNWTO, who represents the member states' governments, WTTC, the leading global private sector association, and ATTA, the leading voice of Europe's tourism business to Africa. We turn to you to partner with us to promote travel and tourism to Africa and to help us build strong industries in each of the African nations. In closing, each of these developments and plans for the future is about more than growing ATA and its members. It's about creating true partnerships for Africa that will benefit all stakeholders. This is the spirit behind our Presidential Forum on Tourism. In 6 years, this forum has become one of the most anticipated events on Africa tourism hosted in New York during the UN General Assembly meetings. We launched the forum in 2006 with the aim to bring together African leaders or their representatives and tourism leaders to speak about how travel and tourism contributes to economic growth and peace and stability, and to highlight current challenges and future prospects of the industry. Since then, 15 African countries and 1,200 industry leaders have participated in the event. Today's forum is the most internationally represented forum we have had since we started the event 6 years ago. The momentum has kicked in, and it seems that we are all in agreement to meet to discuss our hopes and challenges for the industry and the need to renew our commitment to bring the world to Destination Africa. We thank everyone for their participation, and we're honored that after the first part of our program, we'll be joined by a very distinguished leader from Africa, and we are grateful that the government of Chad, represented by His Excellency the President, His Excellency Idris Deby Itno, will be joining us during the second half of the program, and will truly make this give the blessing from Africa's leadership. So thank you, and now turn the floor to Ali.
Thanks, Eddie. And as you were talking, we all got a copy of this report, which is very detailed and very interesting, and gives us a sense of the strides that have been made. But there's some real issues that we've got to face, especially with the fact that with this continued concern of slower economic growth in the United States and across Europe. These are audiences that this group has been targeting for a long time to come to Africa, and you know, now the pitch has got to be even more substantial and a little more clear, because a number of people from these regions are choosing to stay within their regions where they there's a perception that they might get greater value. So this is always a trick when it comes to Africa travel, because it can't just be a value proposition. It's got to be a value proposition, but it can't just become something that is too much of a value proposition. It's got to be a premium destination for visitors. It's got to be a logical destination for people conducting business, and we've got to find a way to merge those. I want to invite someone up here who knows a great deal about this. She is the president of the Africa Travel Association, the Honorable Fatoumas Jobe Njai, the Minister of Tourism and Culture from the Gambia.
Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia, Ajaratu Dr. Aissatou Njie Sedi, honorable ministers here present, our distinguished guests, ATA Board of Directors, members of the NYU faculty and students, friends and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to you all. I would also like to extend a very special welcome to Her Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia, Dr. Ajaratu Aissatou Njie Sedi, who will be participating in this part of the program for the first time. On the occasion of this very important event, I am deeply honored to welcome you in my capacity as the current president of ATA. Before I begin, Your Excellency, please allow me the opportunity to convey sincere apology of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of the Gambia, Sheikh Professor Dr. Alhaji Yahya A.J. Jammeh, for not being able to attend this forum today. He has requested that myself and Her Excellency, the Vice President, share his best wishes for a constructive and productive deliberations today, and convey his unwavering support for the vision and aspirations of the Africa Travel Association. I am also deeply honored to recognize the participation of the Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs of the Gambia, Her Excellency, the Vice President. On a personal note, I wish to thank everyone who has supported me in the first year and a half of my presidency of the association. In my position, I rely heavily on the wisdom, expertise, and support of the ATA Board of Directors and membership, as well as the ATA management team here in New York, who guides the associations along a dynamic and result-oriented path that stands to benefit the African continent and industry in measurable and immeasurable ways. I would now like to take this opportunity to speak briefly about two important things. First, from what Edward Bergman just shared with us from the Second State of Africa Tourism Report, it seems that there is room for us to be optimistic. In 2009, Africa was the only region to show growth in tourism arrivals, and the UNWTO figures of 2010 show a continued growth trend of the region of about 8.8% increase in arrivals. Still, we need to caution our optimism as uncertainty still remains, particularly with regard to investment, business performance, and consumer confidence. We also cannot ignore what happened to the tourism industries in Egypt and Tunisia after the shocks of political change. This brings me to my second point. Travel and tourism can fuel economic growth across Africa. As Mr. Talib Rifai, Secretary General of the UNWTO, pointed out at the World Travel Market in 2010, during this time of economic recovery following the 2008 downturn, travel and tourism can be part of a solution rather than the problem. I agree fully with Mr. Rifai. One, tourism can contribute significantly to a nation's GDP. Tourism can create direct and indirect employment. Tourism can create well-distributed jobs. Tourism can create jobs for women and young people entering the market. Tourism can contribute substantially to global trade and service exports. Tourism can create opportunities for entrepreneurship. And tourism can contribute to sustainable development, particularly the environment and climate change. The probability of success of all these cans is especially higher in emerging markets and transformational destinations. I realize that I am sounding incredibly optimistic here. Allow me to temper this optimism. The reality is that these possibilities of growth and development are not yet fully recognized or appreciated in Africa's political corridors. We need help there. This is where the Africa Travel Association has a critical role to play by representing tourism leaders in government and the private sector, whose collaboration and cooperation is a precursor to success. ATN can help raise awareness of the importance and benefits of the industry among decision makers like ourselves, and the general public across Africa. ATA, through the partnership with the African Union, for instance, the UNWTO, the WTTC, CTO, ATTA, and NTA, can show each and every African nation and its people that tourism is part of the solution and not part of the problem. Your Excellency, honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen and friends, I wish you, with these short remarks, a productive and constructive forum today. I thank you all for your kind attention.
Okay, we're off to a good start with that. Thank you. There's reason to have a great deal of optimism. I'm going to rain on that parade just a little bit when we start, just to find out what we're not doing as well as we could. But I think you're right. There's a great deal of reason for optimism. I'd like to call upon I think we're going to present it as a video, but it's from Mr. Taleb Rifai, who is the Secretary General of the UN World Trade Organization.
Dear friends, Africa Travels Association's annual Presidential Forum is a moment to celebrate the most significant global phenomena, tourism, and to celebrate Africa as well. Under the leadership of your current president, the energetic Minister of Tourism of Gambia, ATA will surely continue to grow as a key partner for tourism in Africa. UNWTO, the UN Specialized Agency for Tourism, stands ready to help you promote Africa to the world and to make tourism thrive for Africa and its people. Today, tourism brings over 50 million people to Africa every year. This translates into jobs, investment, infrastructure, economic growth, development, and well-being for millions. Dear friends, your event today could not take place at a better time. As the UN General Assembly meets in New York, we at the UNWTO are pleased to say that tourism is ever more recognized as a tool for development. This recognition is happening at the UN level as well as at the national level. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate all African leaders present at your event today. Your participation is a commitment to tourism and development in Africa, and to the contribution that the sector can make for a better future in the region. I wish I was able to join you in person on this special occasion, and you can count on our continued commitment and support. I wish you and the forum every success. Thank you.
I'd like to call upon Her Excellency Amina Ali, the African Union Ambassador to the United States of America, for her comments.
Excellency President, Vice President of Gambia and the Minister of Women Affairs, Honorable Minister and Chairman of ATA, Honorable Minister from Tanzania, Excellencies, friends and family from Africa, I would like to take this opportunity to express my profound appreciation for another opportunity to address this August forum on behalf of the Commissioner, Dr. Ilham Ibrahim, Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy, who asked me to convey her greetings and message of support of this August forum today. She had wished to be with us today, but due to unavoidable commitment, she could not be here with us today. She wishes successful deliberations. The African Union Commission had signed MOU with ATA as partners in development of tourism industry in Africa. We've signed the MOU with ATA due to our firm belief and conviction that tourism can be another sector that could contribute towards economic development for Africa. The tourism sector is confronted with an unsurmountable challenge in its development, although we are very optimistic by following the trend of development from last year and this year. The most critical challenges is in the area of infrastructure and communication development. This area is very critical for the efficient tourism sector development to deliver satisfaction to the tourist. The AUC, NEPAD, with partnership with ADB and other partners, have launched PIDA, as a comprehensive infrastructure development program to be able to accelerate development in Africa, and that will give support to the tourism sector. Tourism development, particularly with the intention to launch Destination Africa as a strategy to market African tourism potential. This by itself called for an integrated approach between African institutions like African Union Commission, Regional Economic Commission, ADB, ECA, and our own national governments to revamp our African tourism policy that will clearly address issues on capacity building in terms of training in the hospitality industry, marketing and promotion for Africa as a growing destination, and also in terms of transport and communication issues to connect tourism destinations within the continent and also the tourists from outside Africa. I hope today's annual Tourism Presidential Forum will come out with a recommendation and an action program as a roadmap for development of this sector. There is a need to strategize to realize the global challenges that impacted on the tourism industry, especially in this economic turbulence caused by financial crisis in the developed world, like Europe and America, who are our traditional markets. We also need to analyze the potential and opportunity in other new markets like Gulf countries and Far East to be able to increase our country's tourism revenues earning. In concluding, I want to take this opportunity and take a moment to congratulate ATA under the chairmanship of Madam Minister from Gambia, and also President Eddie Bergman and all the board members of ATA for their wonderful work and commitment to continuously putting Africa in the map. We'll continue to support ATA so as to contribute greatly in supporting member states to realize their national economic objective to increase tourism revenue earning needed for their national economic development. I wish you success for this annual presidential forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I want to call upon our friends from Tanzania, the Honorable Ezekiel Maige. He's the Minister of Natural